Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 22 of the Living Tantra podcast. Today, I am here with a very, very special friend of mine, Natasha Alter. Natasha is an evolutionary astrologer and counselor who's been practicing for over 20 years. And what I appreciate most about her faculty with astrology is every time she starts speaking to me about it, I feel it in my body. And she translates the stars for me in a way that is both very applicable to my life and referenced by my deep feeling sense. So I'm thrilled today to bring you another angle on karma through the lens of her articulation of Saturn, which to me is just fascinating. Not the most comfortable, but as she said a few minutes ago to me, any of us born in this solar system has Saturn in our chart. So welcome, Natasha. Can I just start by asking you, can you define what Saturn is, how we experience it? What does this mean in our reality?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you for bringing me into your realm, into your field. It's always a joy to talk to you and have transmissions back and forth. Okay, so as I said, everybody who is born within the solar system will have Saturn in their chart, which means that it's one of the energies that is operating through us and in us. And one of the profoundly important energies to understand in order to understand one's so-called karma, or the pattern of choice making through the lifetimes. And it happens so that I am personally right now going through my second Saturn return. Probably a lot of people heard of so-called Saturn return, even when you're not familiar with astrology. It happens, Saturn comes back to its natal position 28 and a half, 29 years. So at the age of around 29, we first start meeting face to face that energy. And whatever happens is showing us what we arrive with, what kind of karmic baggage, and it also launches a whole new cycle. So right now I'm 59, so Saturn came back to its original place, 58 to 59. And what happens, since I'm an astrologer and I have been working with this energy, planetary energies, for so long, witnessing it in others, witnessing it in myself, I already have a grasp of its working. However, when it comes to you and lays on already existing knowledge that I have, already existing perception, or let's say basic understanding of the force, what happens when it comes to you, you open the door and it's right there and it goes through you, you or me in this case, you start to literally feel its workings tangibly within your body, within your cells, within your mind, within your every system. And you also start to see very tangibly the pattern of its working out inside, within yourself and without yourself, outside of yourself. So
I want to interrupt you for 1 second here, because there's something you said in the entry into this that is very alive for me. You said our karma or our choices. This is profound in my understanding too, that on some level, our choices are our karma. They may not be our conscious, what our ego thinks we are choosing, but in suggesting that there is an inherent vitality that we are innervating our patterns with.
Absolutely.
Can you see that? Yeah, a little bit more.
Why don't I touch a little bit upon the mechanisms? Because to understand karma or karmic laws and principles, it's good to understand how and why, even in the most basic ways, why it is the way it is here on this planet, at least. Why do we have karmic laws? So it will be easier to understand why I'm using the word choices, right? And the consequences of those choices.
Yes.
So, let's just come to the imagination, or back to that original reality that we are energies, right? The consciousness, the soul, the cosmos itself, the absolute mind, all of those, it's a pure energy, and everything is permeated by this pure primal energy, right? Now, within the solar system, what happens is that Saturn, and this is just my recent insight, as I said, it just came through me. I literally saw it and could palpate it. Saturn operates as a kind of a gate. When the energy hits, pure energy hits the realm of Saturn, the orbit of Saturn, the gate of Saturn, what happens is that pure energy starts to densify, contract. These are all words associated with Saturn. Crystallize, in order for the matter to take form. Okay, so the energy hits the gates of Saturn with all its rings, and whatever the mechanism is, whatever the technology, which I cannot understand technically, it's beyond at this point at least. However, there is that border, that line, after which the energy starts to take form in the density. So Saturn creates form, which is matter. So this is how we come here and operate within the realm of matter, although we know that it's a pure energy, and we are 99%, we are like empty space, with the atoms and electrons and more. So whenever there is this kind of densification of energy that turns into form, of course, time comes with it, and space comes. So Saturn creates the realm of time and space. Wherever there is time, there will be beginning and end, right? Which is an illusion. However, it's a very persistent one, as somebody said. I think it's one of the astrologers. Whenever there is form, there are limitations. Now, just to visualize it, maybe it can help to kind of really feel it. Let's say the pure energy, which are whatever geometrical forms, mandalas that we can ascribe to it, when it comes through Saturn, the shape of Saturn, or the geometrical reflection of Saturnian energy, is a cube. Okay? So all of a sudden, we have trines, triangles, we have waves, we have frequencies, boom, the cube is being formed, which is the symbol of form or matter. Cross is a two-dimensional cube as well. That's why, we have Muslims going around the big black cube in Mecca. We have a cross, which is a cross of matter, the symbol of which is being also worshipped. We have, we have Saturdays that are being worshipped in certain religion. So if you visualize, all of a sudden the energy gets pushed into a cube and starts just being, starts operating within that cube. What happens? When you launch something inside that cube, it bounces off the wall and it's bound to come back. In other words, the energy within the realm of Saturn that is being released is unavoidably bound to return to the center of where it's been released. Can you feel it?
Mm-hmm.
It's like being inside like a little tennis, training. You pick the ball and it comes back to you, and you keep doing that, right?
So would you equate that to the law of cause and effect?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is how we come to the law of cause and effect.
Or the golden rule.
Or the golden rule. Again, within this realm and this dimension. You see, Saturn is like sending this kind of a mysterious frequency or bandwidth within which everything that exists within it operates under those laws. All of it is a matter of frequency, but it doesn't really matter, because here we are trying to understand how to operate being in the physical body and in the physical realm. Now, could you feel it, like being inside the form, the return is unavoidable?
Yes.
The return is avoidable only when you, with your consciousness and many incarnations and extreme level, high level of awareness, already understand and see through this illusion of form. Then, you know either not to launch the energy, or you're already so multidimensional that you probably know how to play with all these cause and effect energies.
Give me an example. I want to access in a more tangible way what you're saying about having the consciousness to where we either choose not to launch the energy, or we're operating in enough of a stabilized multidimensional way that we're not totally consumed by our experience of the return of it. Correct?
Exactly. Or we have such a vision that we know the result ahead of time. When we exist already outside of time, then we know that like this action is going to have this reverberation around, this rip effect. And then already we can master it or operate with it on a different level. But this is I'm talking about master. I'm talking about those who sit maybe and wonder, how can I bypass it? How can I escape that, right? So coming back to karma, this is the mechanism of it, right? The boomerang effect. Which means that every thought, every word, and every action, especially, because this is a realm of physical action and doing, will have a return. Now, that's why the word karma in Sanskrit is the action. It's the doing. It's the verb. It's not a noun. It's an ongoing process of actions we take, choices we make within the physical realm that we are weaving ourselves.
So on
Does
what
it?
level, yeah, on what level? Because you could say if we just stop our actions, then that's the cessation of karma.
Well, when you see, if you see injustice in front of you or cruelty and you are not acting, this is also action. Oftentimes non-action is action in itself.
Yes.
You see, non-action that I'm talking about is on a different level. It's well, let's put it this way. When we launch energy, because we are incarnating in the realm with other souls and other beings, more often than not, unless we are only like, operating with ourselves in the cave, but it's still kind of an action in itself, we're sending thoughts. But most often than not, our actions involve other humans, other souls. And they, in their turn, receive their consequences of this action. And their lives and their web of connections has also ramifications. So by our choices of actions, we're actually spreading a lot of energy beyond of what we most often are aware of. And so we create this energetic kind of principle within the fabric of this reality, which is alive, which keeps working. And so we are on the soul level, we're already connected to it because we originated this thread or this action. So the reincarnation to me feels like we're being pulled back to that energetic pattern and to those connections that became consequences of that action. You see,
how is their completion then in Saturnian cycles?
You mean in terms of my Saturn return?
Well, so if we use incarnation, like you're saying, reincarnation is the return to patterns that we have set in place and the soul's connected to those patterns. So how do we navigate or choose, instead of perpetuating the same, completing the cycle?
Okay, so this is where I'm at right now. And this is why I've had these downloads, and this is why it's so alive in me, the kind of a renewed understanding of all these laws of karma and Saturnian principles. Well, first of all, it's important to understand one's pattern, one's karmic patterns. It's important to know, it's like know thyself. It's important to understand what you're bringing here. What are your major themes that you left reverberating in this fabric of reality that you came back to readdress, or to repeat, or to perpetuate, or choose not to perpetuate? That's where the choice is becoming the basis of karma. We can spin on the same wheel, and I work with a lot of people, and I can see those wheels all the time, and I can see it within myself, oh, I came back to this again. So that's where the word choice is. So understanding the wheel you're rotating in, like a squirrel, understanding the compulsion to certain pattern of reactions, relationships, perceptions, of reality, which create your reaction, right? It's a perception. So understanding all that you are made of, and it makes you make these choices, but not that ones. That's what, and having, this kind of a map where you see and become like a observer of the very map that you yourself have designed. And once that happens, there is freedom to make a different choice next time. When the same situation comes, or when the same thought pattern starts overcoming you, or when the same impulse, which you've always been responding to instinctively, comes again, that's the moment where you have a choice, whether to jump into it again or take a deep breath and bring it to awareness and ask, why am I doing it? It doesn't mean not to do it. If it's a benign impulse that results in abundance of grace for yourself and others. But I am mostly talking about other side of our reality, more Saturnian. That's why Saturn is associated with a great teacher.
And in my experience, when we hit, especially these very deep places of where we've made perpetual choices or chosen to interpret and receive the way reality is happening through a specific lens, when we pause and not even choose something different, but just pause in not knowing, there's a spaciousness or a light, or for me, colors often get more vibrant. It's like I have expanded beyond a layer of density into where there are new choices, where there,
Exactly. So we can expand beyond the realm of Saturn while remaining physically in the realm of Saturn. So you start having that transcendental perspective on the existence here and on your own reality and your own karmic story and your given kind of a energetic system. And that's when we can, that freedom that you're talking about, this multi-dimensional kind of experience comes. And then the choice, even if it's the same choice, becomes so much more conscious. This time I'm choosing it again, but I'm aware of, for instance, the consequences, cause and effect, right? And I'm ready to receive them, but I'm going to receive them with high awareness, not automatically and react again in the same pattern. So that's actually working with Saturn as well. This is why also Saturn is associated with great teacher and sages and mastery. Because once we master this realm of matter and understand the responsibility that we carry for each of our choices, that's when we completely transform our reality, right?
And so Saturn, receiving the blessing of Saturn, is literally how we embody more of our multidimensionality here.
Absolutely.
Through physical form.
Because Saturn has two faces. One is looking inward, right, into the limited time-space reality where cause and effect is operating. But the other face of Saturn is looking into eternity. So in our case, in our third dimension, it is the mastery, it's the art to master the existence within matter, thus connecting to an absolute divine eternal source while being here.
It for me, it stirs the value of structures or commitment. Yeah, structures and commitments almost. Even,
Yes.
my parents would speak about marriage. Their marriage never felt like confinement. It felt like freedom. And that to me feels like a higher octave of Saturnian.
Exactly. That's a higher octave of Saturn. Exactly. So there is something about, which is very new for me, because I'm naturally, I naturally don't like boundaries, commitments, rules, limitations, schedules.
Yeah, time constraints.
What?
Time constraints.
All of that, right? It's just not sitting so well with me. However, I also do have Saturn, right? And just with this second side, being inside that Saturnian energy, I'm just starting to understand and deeply feel the wisdom of all these words that associated what usually evokes my rebellion, commitment, continuity, responsibility for everything you say and do, reliability, all of this solidity and firmness that can feel like prison, when we're less kind of insightful into the workings of this realm. All of a sudden, I understand the value of these principles and necessity and the way how to make them work as a point of freedom rather than limitation and enslavement and, or perceived lack of freedom.
And so a Saturn return is just when the Saturn frequency is even more present.
It's absolutely it's activated to its maximum. However,
simply because of its proximity.
No, because it hits, it aligns, it hits your already existing Saturnian energy center. It comes back to it, so it kind of like blows it up into your face. So I've been going now for a couple of months, watching seeing my life, having like this big revision and review and seeing how every move and every choice have been leading to a series of consequences that with years and with time created the reality that I am now.
And this can densify into health,
everything,
distortions, and anything that has to do with the physical plane.
Anything which has to do with our life. Everything, the relationships, the path chosen or not. Everything. Finances, the things you said no to, the things you said yes to, everything. So it becomes like in these particular transitions, it becomes just so tangible. You can see your existence as a Lego, where each piece perfectly fits the next one, and it unfolds in front of you, the whole canvas that you painted yourself. Right? We are the creators of this story, and we keep adding the pieces. And the art is like, what kind of next piece do you want to add? Do you want to diversify maybe? Aren't you tired of rotating within the same image? Or not?
And so what are the age markers for a Saturn return?
You know, Saturn goes, makes it full around 28 and a half, 29 years. So, you know, 58, 59 is the second one. If we live longer, it's going to be the third one. However, Saturn also touches itself with various angles every 7 years.
Mm.
So we all probably heard about this 7-year mini cycle within the 28 years of mega cycle, right? So every 7 years we have Saturn either conjoining itself, then it's making the 90 degrees, then it's making it 180 degrees. So it's still like a Saturn return. However, it's not a full return. It's addressing itself, and all the issues that are connected to the structure of our reality are coming back.
Okay, so
whether we want it or not.
Question for you. Those people, those souls that we have karma with,
Yes.
is that often represented by either conjunct Saturns or because there are different qualities to different connections, right? Some feel deeply karmic. there's a density and an inescapability, and
yes. Not necessarily. I mean, of course, there will be Saturnian signatures within synastry. However, not necessarily.
Okay.
Because whenever we establish the connection in whatever astrological configuration that is, whether there is Saturn or not, it still happens within the Saturnian realm of matter. Okay, so it means that whenever we establish the energetic channel within a different person and things happen and emotional chords are established, those chords remain active after we leave the body anyway. Mm-hmm. And so we return or we reincarnate with this other entity, this other unit of consciousness, to kind of like join those channels energy which are already that are still there, because time doesn't really exist. So we return right into that frequency with this other person.
So in a way, it is our Saturnian connections that actually help anchor our consciousness here on Earth.
As I said, the people that we reincarnate with or are meant to reuptake the karmic stories, we will not necessarily have Saturnian aspects. We can have Mars-Venus conjunction. It doesn't really matter because it's still within the realm of Saturn. You see what I mean? So astrologically, it can be reflected in any way. But what I'm saying that once we establish that frequency and the chords and emotional exchange, if that exchange is dense with issues that are not vibrating in the highest octave of love, which is clean, which doesn't require reincarnation, as long as it's there, we will return to reuptake them. And it is already Saturnian. Everything, you know, all of this karma, so to say, that we jump into over and over again, it's Saturnian in itself.
So in essence, the relationships we're often trying to avoid or get away from through the Saturnian lens, these relationships actually offer us our liberation,
Absolutely.
our
Absolutely.
escape from the patterns of rebirth and rebirth and rebirth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is a great understanding that you have, because once we are aware of that, first of all, we understand the necessity of reuptaking that pattern, because something needs to either be repaired, formed, completed, healed. And so once we know that, then first of all, there is no resistance. Okay? When there is a resistance only exacerbates what is already there anyway, and it's not going to go away. And with understanding and awareness, we actually take it as a grace and a great opportunity, and Saturnian word necessity, karmic necessity, because we know that we ain't gonna get away within the realm of Saturn unless we heal and realign the energy. You see, that's the thing, that gate that I was talking about, it's like inside of that orb, it's like there is no leeway. It's like no matter how much we would like to jump over and forget and just like put under the carpet, or let me just transmute, like let me get the you know, my DNA reactivated, and like let me burn my karma. And yes, it's probably possible. However, first of all, I haven't met one yet, number one. And second, once you understand the actual grace behind it and the benign energy that comes with it, you start actually receiving it with joy even. Bring it on, you start saying.
So for me, that alchemical process of welcoming or embracing or meeting our Saturnian inheritance, basically.
Yes, inheritance is actually Saturnian word, yes. Absolutely.
I mean, to me, that alchemy is Tantra. It's our being with, meeting,
yes,
aspect of ourselves that we have placed as other, placed as outside of us, as it returns to us.
Absolutely.
Can you speak to either your bodily experience or your feeling experience of when you feel a Saturnian reckoning happening, or how you approach that?
Well, you know, Saturn is very strong in my chart, so I feel Saturnian reckoning quite a lot. I can tell you maybe an example that can be useful for the listeners.
Yeah, great.
And this is about those moments, okay? So since we vibrate a certain pattern, right? We are walking kind of vibrational entities. So we magnetize the reality, we magnetize those people with whom we have karma with, and so on. So what happens when it's being magnetized, the situations that we already have lived even in these lifetimes once again reappear. Okay? And we can trace it if you thoroughly study your path and your journey. You know, you can see, oh, here it again, the same setup, different actors maybe, different background, different something, but the essence, the principle behind what's appearing and what you are facing is the same. it can fool you that it's different, or it's different person, it's not the same. It's no. Look underneath, move the so once you understand the realities and situations that you're karmically attracting, and for me, this is how it has been. Once I understood the mechanisms through which I broadcast the energy that magnetize the situation, those are the moments when you can, as we said, take a deep breath. And then I can clearly see, okay, if I do this, which is a habitual thing to do, if I, let's say, answer this way, even if I live this situation, if I, react, I know exactly the pattern that is going to be re-released. It becomes predictable. And so this is the moment where you are standing and start playing with that so-called karma, because you see the fork. Okay, I can go here, and I've done that 1,000,000 times for lifetimes. I can go also here. That's going to be new, but that creates new patterns. I can also go here, and that will create new patterns.
Mm.
So you see, every choice leaves this like a branch, there will be many branches. Every choice would create new patterns. And so the freedom of those moments is then when when you can actually choose which direction you want to go. And for that, you need to know the past. You need to know your addictions.
So this is free will, essentially.
Yes, I mean, or the illusion of it. Yes, definitely. I would say that what we call free will is the multiplicity of choices. Perhaps for every choice, there is already a program, of the future. I don't know.
So it's not about making the right choice or the wrong choice, but it's about the level of consciousness we employ in our choosing.
Exactly. And the level, again, bringing the word responsibility, right? That's Saturn. The level of awareness of the responsibility we have for the consequences of our choices.
Yeah.
Because consequences is, again, within that cube that there will be consequences.
Yeah.
And so we can, with our greater vision, we can see the waves, we can see where it can lead to, how other people, what other people it's gonna affect, what energy field is gonna create as a result. Right? And then we can make a choice. Do we want to launch this wave again or not?
I have a beautiful example of this. When I was in my late 20s, I was traveling in Nepal. And while I was there, I found out I was pregnant. And I was not in a place where I was ready to have a child. And I was traveling with my partner at the time. And we had all these meetings set up to meet with these very high lamas. And we were there both to climb mountains and do practice. Mm-hmm. And I remember having a meeting with a lama there and saying, I'm not ready to have a child. Mm-hmm. I want to know the implications or the karma of my choice if I have an abortion. Mm-hmm. And the answer I got was not what I was expecting. Mm-hmm. It just said you have choice. Mm-hmm. And within that choice, there are things you can do to balance out the choice that you make. And what matters is that you're full in the choice that you make. Yeah. And that directed your
path in certain way, and launched, and this is who you are now, sitting and communicating with me. This is the summary. Saturn summarizes all of this, all of those steps, for lifetimes in the here and now form.
The liberation comes not in making the right choice in the wrong choice, but the liberation comes in our full responsibility for our own lives, which takes a profound level of sovereignty, because it means that we're no longer abdicating our decisions or our metric of what's right and wrong outside of ourselves. Absolutely. But we become our own God in a way.
The terms you're using, responsibility, sovereignty, all of these words are actually, if you take any astrology book and read the keywords for Saturn, these are the keywords for Saturn. Mm-hmm. Saturn, in its highest, takes full responsibility for its own life and its actions, and is ready to pay the price. Mm. With a Capricorn, we have a goat, right, climbing the mountain, right, and it's alone there, but it's still climbing. It's hard work, and it's not gratifying, but it's still climbing. So that's a symbol of taking full responsibility and establishing this certain sovereignty, that God is sovereign. Mm. And it will achieve its goal. It will reach the peak because it wants the mastery. That's the spiritual Saturn.
And Capricorn, as I understand, is also associated with legacy. So reaching this goal, doing that work, sets something in motion that reaches far beyond the fetch of our own lifetime, even, or of our own.
Absolutely. And this is, again, beyond the lifetime. It's like all these waves that we are sending here and now. That's the responsibility that we take. And these are the waves that we're returning to work with again. Take pay the price, reap the benefits, whatever that is, It's, all these biblical phrases like what you sow, what you sow, you will reap.
What you reap is what you sow, yeah.
These are the simple kind of metaphors for the workings of that energy. So yes, I deeply feel the freedom, this Saturn return, that that awareness and full reception, full absolute reception for everything, including big mistakes if they exist, that I've done. There is a reception, and with the reception comes fulfillment. Fulfillment is not really graded in achievements or titles, or it's a sense of being in complete agreement with your choices, and ultimately with who you are today.
So that's union. That's
union. Yes, exactly.
And it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, when we choose to make a different choice around a program of a pattern that has been RMO for most of our life,
yes,
it means exposing ourselves to ways we don't know ourselves, ways
yes,
we don't have a sense or a knowing of how life will continue forward.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like a death. Yeah.
And that's the adventure.
Yes.
That's the adventure.
This conversation feels so important right now, too, at a time when the whole guru era is collapsing and governmental systems are not as reliable as we thought they, the veils are being pulled back on
Yes.
the reality of what's happening. So there is this mandate actually for us to take a deeper level of responsibility
Yes.
for ourselves and our choices. And, even on the level of health, I see it like people aging and just believing in some way they're going to be taken care of by the system. And
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
right. So would you say there's almost like a Saturnian, how would you speak to that in the collective right now too? I mean, you've spoken to it from a personal Saturn standpoint, but
Well, it's in 2020 there was a great conjunction of three heavyweights, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, and they were all in Capricorn, which is Saturn itself. It's a Saturnian. So we had a huge clash that kind of started a new era when everything that is not in alignment, everything that is fake, false, manipulative, started to be exposed. Not only that, I mean, of course, there is, of course, we had this COVID thing, and that's one of the manifestations of that conjunction, but it's a dual. It's like attempt for bigger control and at the same time resistance or awareness even in the collective that there is that attempt and there is the agenda. So we have, both energies activated. So yeah, collectively, Saturn is no longer in Capricorn. However, I mean, it's now in Aquarius, but yes, definitely there is a process of demasking.
and so how does Saturn present in Aquarius now?
Well, we are in the realm of kind of looking into what humanity, which is Aquarius or humanity, where is humanity going? And what kind of format or new system or regime, which is Saturn, is going to be now applied to this new humanity.
So what are the structures we need to?
We are moving into completely different structures of how societies are run, how relationships are being built. It's like from a lower to a high, all of this that has to do with our human as collective, smaller, bigger, is now being reassessed, and Aquarius also rules technology.
Right.
So clearly there is a huge ingress of technology into the running of society, and Saturn represents government.
Right.
Yeah. Well, on the other hand, Aquarius also rules higher consciousness. Aquarius is where we connect to the divine mind beyond this Saturnian bubble. This is our antennas, which means that, especially those who have some aspects to that Saturn, or when Saturn is hitting some places in the chart, it gets activated. So a lot of new questions are being asked.
So this could be a powerful time for
humanity. It is a very powerful time.
In terms of visionary
Absolutely. Oh, yes.
Supporting new humanity are being anchored.
Absolutely. I mean, I see a lot of people are now on the edge of completely restructuring their existence. I see a lot of cases, clients, friends who are thinking of completely changing their reality. And Aquarius is also relating to the future, building up that new paradigm. And a lot of people are on the personal level involved in that.
So would you say what's happening collectively with Saturn right now can also support us individually in moving beyond our Saturnian karmic patterns into new choices?
Right. I wouldn't say moving beyond Saturnian. I mean, it's like as long as we are in the flesh and blood, we can't do it.
Yeah.
However, what we can do is bring consciousness into it. And that's Aquarius, right?
So we are in that way, we are being supported.
Exactly. We can be illuminated, Aquarius, in that way, right? We can understand the grand design,
yeah,
and work with it in harmony.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow, powerful transmission. Yeah, through the octaves.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to share in conclusion relative to this before I get to talk about you and what you do?
There's so much. There's so much. I mean, I feel these huge, chunks of material that, can build upon it a lot. But maybe I could send a message for all of us to step up in our sense of, again, using that word responsibility for our lives, for our choices, for the consequences that we have already received, and take it with grace and gratitude. That is the path to sovereignty. Saturn never points the finger anymore. That's what it doesn't do.
And that's liberating.
Yeah. So we are, with the Saturn and Aquarius, a renewed understanding of how we are the creators of our realities.
Thank you, Natasha. Yeah, it's always so rich. You take things so deep into your own visceral study that when you speak about it, it always carries so much information for me and permission, to relax deeper into what's available through the challenges as blessing.
Beautiful. Thank you for this feedback. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So Natasha, I mean, obviously she's an incredible astrologer. She's available for support through Saturn returns. I mean, that's a lot of what we were talking about today. She really, in my experience of her as an astrology, she really speaks to the soul. There's a way I feel my soul seen and exalted and more accessible to me through her reflection with my chart. And one thing that we didn't even mention today that she is amazing with is children's charts. And for me, with my own children, giving me insight into who they are when I have specific difficulty with behavioral patterns or understanding my challenges with my son or my daughter. She has an incredible way of almost speaking on behalf of the child's soul, to where it just relaxes the tension and the opposition of what's happening and grants different perspective. Again, where something's not right or wrong, but there's just a much bigger picture of why things are happening, what's being explored through this specific slice of consciousness. Yeah. anything else you want to say about that, or how you like to engage with charts or people?
We can talk maybe another time about it.
Okay, yeah, good. I would like that. So anyway, her website and contact info will be below in notes. Thank you so much, Natasha.
Thank you, my dear friend.
Yeah, and thank you all so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.